Look at this iceberg. We think we understand the world because we can see the surface. But beneath the waves of mainstream history lies a mountain of anomalies. Data points that don't fit the model, evidence that got quietly filed away, and questions that powerful institutions decided were too inconvenient to answer. Tonight, we aren't here for ghost stories. We are here for the forensic record, the documents, the autopsies, and the data points that the official explanation quietly stopped mentioning. 3 cases, 3 official explanations, 3 sets of data that the textbooks quietly ignored. From a 5,000-year-old engineering project that shouldn't have been possible, to 9 experienced hikers who fled into a blizzard in their socks and never came back, to a 240-page manuscript that defeated Alan Turing, defeated modern AI, and has never surrendered a single coherent sentence. We are going past the surface. Every system has a weakness, and every secret has a price. Welcome to System Breech. Stonehenge is the world's most studied prehistoric monument, and for an engineer, it is a 5,000-year-old logistical problem that still doesn't have a clean answer. We are not talking about the large sarsen stones. Those came from 25 miles away. We are talking about the blue stones. Geologists, using X-ray fluorescence analysis, have traced them to a very specific origin: the Carn Godog and Craig Rossyfelin quarries in the Preseli Hills of Wales. That is a 150-mile journey, across open ocean or through the jagged terrain of the Welsh mountains, without a single wheel. The engineering cost was staggering. Experimental archaeology estimates that moving 1 4-ton bluestone required a ground crew of between 200 and 500 people using timber rollers and leather trackways. Multiply that by 80 stones. That is a multi-generational labour commitment that would have economically collapsed most ancient societies. The standard academic counter is the glacial erratic theory, the idea that during the Pleistocene epoch, massive glaciers acted as a natural conveyor belt, depositing these stones directly onto Salisbury Plain. The people didn't move them, they just found them. It's a clean theory. It collapses under one forensic test. If a glacier had dragged a mountain's worth of bluestone 150 miles, the landscape should be littered with trash. Thousands of smaller bluestone fragments scattered along the entire glacial path. Geologists have walked that route. The Salisbury Plain is clean. Bluestone fragments exist only at Stonehenge. The stones didn't drift there. They were chosen, and they were moved. But moved by whom, and why this specific location remains, officially, unknown. What we do know is this: the project required a level of prehistoric organisational infrastructure that our current models of ancient society simply don't account for. Someone coordinated a 150-mile supply chain across hostile terrain, sustained it across multiple generations, and then stopped, leaving behind a monument that has outlasted every civilization that came after it. The glacier didn't do that. February 1959. The Ural Mountains, Soviet Union. 9 experienced hikers, all certified mountaineers, vanished into a peak the local Mansi people called Kholat Syakhl, the Mountain of the Dead. When rescue teams finally reached the campsite on February 26th, they found a scene that contradicted every natural explanation available to them. The tent had been slashed open from the inside, not unzipped, cut. 9 sets of footprints led away from the camp down the slope toward the tree line. And here is the first forensic anomaly the official record cannot cleanly resolve. Those footprints were calm, not scattered, not frantic. Soviet investigators documented that the tracks were consistent with people walking at a normal pace, not running in terror from an avalanche, but walking, deliberately, in -30-degree temperatures, in their socks. The autopsies produced something that forensic pathologists still struggle to categorize. Lyudmila Dubinina, and Semyon Zolotaryov were found with catastrophic internal injuries, massive thoracic fractures consistent with the force of a high-speed vehicle collision, yet their external tissue was completely intact. No bruising, no surface trauma, just internal organs destroyed by a compressive force that left the skin untouched. For decades, the leading institutional explanation has been the slab avalanche theory, most prominently advanced in a 2021 study published in Communications Earth and Environment by Swiss researchers from ETH Zurich and ETH Lausanne. Their computer model proposed that a small, delayed slab of snow, triggered by the hikers cutting into the slope to pitch their tent, could account for the injuries. But independent geohazards expert Jim McElwain of Durham University, who reviewed the 2021 study, identified the critical gap the model doesn't close. The research, he told National Geographic, does not explain why these people, after supposedly being struck by an avalanche in minus 30-degree temperatures, then fled their shelter without their clothes. His conclusion? For experienced mountaineers to make that decision, they had to be, in his word, terrified of something inside the tent. And then there is the evidence the avalanche model cannot touch at all. Soviet investigators found elevated radioactive contamination on the clothing of several hikers. Slab avalanches do not leave radioactive signatures. The Soviet government's response was to classify the case files, seal the mountain to the public for 3 years, and officially conclude the deaths were caused by, and this is their exact language, a compelling natural force. They never specified what that force was. The file was sealed, the mountain was closed, and the question of what was in that tent has never received an official answer. In 1912, a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich acquired a 240-page illustrated manuscript from a Jesuit college in Italy. Carbon dating at the University of Arizona later confirmed the parchment was produced between 1404 and 1438. No one has read it since. The Voynich manuscript has been analysed by World War II codebreakers, NSA cryptographers, and modern large language models. Not one coherent sentence has been successfully translated. But here is where the case moves from curiosity into forensic territory. The manuscript is not random. Statistical analysis proves it obeys Zipf's law, a mathematical principle found in every known human language, where word frequency follows a precise inverse ranking pattern. The most common word appears twice as often as the second, 3 times as often as the third. Gibberish doesn't do this. Random character sequences don't do this. The Voynich text carries the same statistical signature as Italian, Arabic, and Latin. It has the measurable architecture of language. A 15th century forger could not have faked this, because the mathematics behind Zipf's law wasn't formally described until 1935, 500 years after the manuscript was made. The current mainstream academic position is that it may represent a lost Proto-Romance dialect or an extinct shorthand. But even modern supercomputers running large language models have failed to extract a single translatable sentence. If it is a human language, it is one with no ancestor and no descendant, a linguistic ghost that materialized in the 1400s and vanished without leaving a trace in any other documented text. We can prove the message is there, we cannot read it, and whoever wrote it has not left us a key. 3 cases, 3 official explanations, 3 sets of forensic data that don't fit inside the approved narrative. A prehistoric supply chain that defies our models of ancient civilization. 9 experienced mountaineers who walked calmly into a blizzard and never came back, leaving behind radioactive clothing and internal injuries no natural force has cleanly explained. And a 600-year-old manuscript that carries the mathematical fingerprint of human language, but has surrendered nothing to 6 centuries of codebreakers. The official record calls these anomalies. We call them data. The files exist. The evidence is documented. The only thing missing is the explanation they are willing to give you. Volume 2 goes deeper. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Every system has a weakness. We find it.